Hey, greetings. That's my hello for today. Greetings. Hey, welcome back. Another episode of The Slice. It's insurance talk with a barbershop flair. Really excited to be back with my brothers, Dwight and Jelani. Betting on Me Part 2. It was so nice. We had to do it twice.
Had to do it twice.
We're gonna get caught up. Hopefully not get caught out there, with what we say. But I'm gonna turn it over to my brothers, man. Let's start digging into this conversation. What's been up since we last talked?
Oh, a lot. Dwight, you want to kick us off?
Man, we got to start with you, Jelani. Come on now. Listen, we're doing things, but you're making moves, brother.
I'm just, as I like to say, I'm just having fun. It's there's too much opportunity in this insurance space for us not to be having fun and for us to be able to get our slice. So I think my folks might have seen on the intro, there was a new logo there. We saw Encore, we saw Metro, and then the one at the bottom was E.G. Bowman, which is a historic business in this industry. And we had listen, it is an institution within this industry, and I'm honored and blessed to be able to carry the torch with that business. We'll kind of dig into a little bit more about how we got here, but at a very high level, we went through an acquisition process. I reached out to the owners of the business back in November of last year. Had to go through a full fundraising process, and that ultimately is what kind of took us to getting that acquisition closed in July. And I think that's definitely something that I feel like we can kind of start to riff on in a few. It's just like you guys might see founder of Safari at the bottom there, and I think one of the themes that we've discussed as a group was kind of like one, going to where the water is warm and kind of recognizing that there's a lot of opportunity in the space, but you really got to go where there is a need and where there is like true opportunity for your entrepreneurial journey to flourish.
Absolutely.
But I think too, like one of the things that we were talking about separately, kind of offline, was just kind of the concept with like pivoting and kind of recognizing like maybe it might not necessarily be the right time for what you're maybe like deeply passionate about or what you've been working on for 18, 24, 36, however long you would have been working on it. But there's nothing wrong with going in a slightly different direction if it makes the opportunity for you to get to where you really want to be in 10 or 15 years that much more clear. So that's kind of where we're at right now. That's where I'm at. So I'm
let's just celebrate that. Let's just take
congratulations, brother. Congratulations.
I feel like Nori when you say that.
We need one of those machines. We gotta make sure
we gotta get one of them.
We gotta get a button for the rest of the series.
That warrants it. Warrants it. Dwight, what you got going on, brother? What's going on? What's the latest?
Man, I've been busy. It's been a good year so far, working with, doing work with Metro Claims and expanding what I'm doing with the new venture, Getty's Management Group. Working on the insurance brokerage side, doing mediations and expert witness work. So, one of the things that I've been trying to do is making sure that, I don't get caught in just doing one thing. You know what I mean? When you've been doing something for a long time, you could stay there and just do that one thing. But you know what? I want to do more. I want to learn more, and I want to expand more. And I want to share the experience that I have, that I've gained in this industry with others. So,
absolutely.
How about you, Rod?
Yeah, what's
your I'm enjoying hearing what you brothers got going on. But I mean, just in the same vein, continuing to move and build. The agency, we celebrated a year, kind of a year officially operating this month, in September, so excited about that, continuing to grow. I think we talked about kind of, making some shifts and pivots. And I think whenever you're in business, you have to find where you can continue to add value and also continue to support your bottom line as well to continue to grow the revenue opportunity. So when people see me, I know that they see me in a lot of different capacities. I'm running the agency. We got the podcast over here. The book is doing great. We actually got an exhibit that's coming based on the book. It's called Ensuring Equity, Black
so
Society.
I got a copy, but it's not signed though, right?
I got you.
You gotta fix that.
I got you.
Okay.
Listen, since we last talked, I actually released another book too. The second book, You Should Get a License, the book. Yes. I just haven't had a chance to talk about it as much because it came out. But we got some great things, on the distribution side, and I think it's just continuing to add. So we got our PNC house, we have our life and financial education house, which is doing amazing. We're starting to kind of position ourselves to participate a little bit more on the employee benefit side. But man, we're just looking to grow and encourage people to join this crusade, get into this industry, learn about how to educate themselves, their families, and others, and making sure that they're protecting those assets and growing that wealth at the same time.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
So I wanted to ask, and because I know we're gonna need longer than 30 minutes, but Dag, I just want to ask, man, like what was the inspiration behind the E.G. Boatman approach, man? Like what was, and I'm gonna ask you that probably again too.
Yeah. Now listen,
Right.
I'm glad that you asked that question because there's a couple of different reasons for it. So I spent a few years in investment banking and I worked with all of the big M&A roll-ups, right? So we did work for like Hub International, Acrisure, all of them that everyone knows is going out to all the Main Street agencies across the country and buying them up. And, you kind of just realize that like they're not doing anything all that like creative and it's not all that hard. All it is financial engineering that they're doing. They have a ton of cash behind them, but all that they do is they go into an office, they say, what's your revenue? And now how can we aggregate that into our wallet so that we can then sell to the next private equity firm in a few years? So the thesis that I've always held, that I've held over the past, let's call it 2 to 3 years within this business, is that there's a bunch of folks that are reaching retirement age and that are starting to phase out of the business, right? Everyone's been talking about this talent gap for a very long time. So we could probably go around to every major city across the United States that has a large, let's call it Black population, and you would probably find an agency owner that might have a business that's generating $75,000 in revenue or $200,000 in revenue, whatever you want to call it. And a lot of them, unfortunately, are going to wind down. And I think that, unfortunately, when like the traditional way of thinking about entrepreneurship is that you have to build it. But I read a great book that I would highly suggest to everyone that they check out. It's called Buy Then Build, that basically talks about acquisition entrepreneurship and kind of like thinking about, all right, how do I buy the infrastructure of an existing business so that I can then kind of build on using things like InsurTech, using things like, other kind of mechanisms to like go out and grow and scale a company over time. So I would say that's kind of the thought behind like why I really decided to go down the acquisition path, is because there's so many different brokerage and agency owners that come from our community. I think that we have to make a very concerted effort to make sure that those businesses don't wind down and that they continue to be minority owned, because I think that like we have a very particular value proposition to our community, especially when you see things like the Erie announcement or other things that insurance carriers are pulling, right? Like you need more minority owned independent agencies if we're going to be able to create a true equitable, I would say,
ecosystem.
Yeah,
we got to create our own ecosystem.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, the opportunities are definitely out there. Dwight, do you see what do you see like on the claim side, like on the adjuster side? Even I know that you have the mediation piece happening as well. What are you seeing from an acquisition space there?
Well, I can tell you, right now and the last few years, there's been a lot of activity with big TPAs buying of smaller IAs and smaller TPAs. And I've always said that, that presents an opportunity for companies like mine, because at the end of the day, the big TPAs, if you're an insurance company that's regional or one state, you may have a significant amount of business, a lot of, premium volume coming in, but guess what? You contract with these national TPAs, you're not their priority.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because they're looking at, a carrier with business in all 50 states or 25 states, and you're not it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've always said, listen, I know, like, I'm looking at the carriers that are at this level because I can work with them and grow with them.
Mm-hmm.
And that approach has helped me over the years, with my business. But something Jelani said that I think is quite profound, man. And you mentioned succession, and I think two of the biggest issues that we have as small business owners, entrepreneurs in this space, succession and scaling.
True that.
And they work hand in hand, because a lot of times, like Jelani said, you got people who are retiring. They're coming out of the industry or whatever, and they're getting to that point, but they haven't scaled the business. So
Right.
it's still being run on a small level, and scaling could be whether it's employees, whether it's geographical, where you do your business, area of operations or whatever. It could be a lot of things, but the point is that it could be technology, but they're not operating from that growth mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just,
And I got to tell you, I'm not pointing fingers, because at the end of the day, you're trying to stay alive.
I think we all experience it if you're operating in a capacity where you're a smaller firm, you're going to have areas of opportunities, to kind of fill in those gaps.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think it's important. One of the things I think that we face, if I can, just to be very candid, is that we don't know how to establish these infrastructures, right? And there's two things. One, we don't know how to establish the right infrastructures in the business. Two, Jelani, what you're doing on the acquisition side is incredible, because that's not something that we hear about either.
Mm-hmm.
We don't hear about our people doing
we
it.
definitely
There are some doing it. There are some doing it.
We know some that are doing it.
We know some that are doing it, and doing it very well.
Branches, shout them out. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
They're making it happen. But in mass, it's not the way that we are typically thinking. We're typically thinking from an owner-operator perspective.
Yep.
And I remember, so there's a guy, Jason Paul Rogers, who's a student of this guy named Dan Pena. Dan Pena wrote this book called Your First 100 Million, which is all about M&A. It's all about acquisitions, buying a business, kind of building it, then selling it, buying another business, building it, selling it, it's kind of taking that whole course. And if we just had knowledge and exposure, I think that would solve a lot of the curve. Just to put it out there though, Encore, if you are an agency in the Central Virginia area, to exit and retire, there's some really great brothers, who would be happy to have a conversation about that. I'm just putting that out there in public forum.
But like it's important, because I guarantee you there are 3 to 5 in your area, even if it's beyond Central Virginia, right? Like there are so many different opportunities across the country, and like this is why what you're doing, Rod, is like so important, because like written history about the way that the current insurance industry was built is so important. You look back at the history of Marsh, like they only came to be after there was like that big fire in this downtown Chicago area, and then they went out and then they started to merge with other firms in their areas, and then they just grew through acquisition. It's the same exact thing that Acrisure is doing. Like they're not reinventing the wheel here, guys. Like it's very, very simple. And I think that there are a lot of opportunities in our backyard to where you could literally be like, yo, I want to buy X, Y, or Z agency. They're doing $300,000. Live Oak Bank, call them up. I'll put you into contact with whoever you guys want to chat with there. They'll underwrite it for you. And like, this is exactly what I did. Like they'll underwrite it for you. And now you own a business that you didn't have to go out and worry about pounding pavement with no salary or benefits to start a book from scratch. You've bought relationships, you've bought infrastructure, and that's so valuable. And I just worry about the perpetuation piece a lot too. So I think that like everyone should look into it. There's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
I think there's one more thing too that we got to kind of look at that is a problem for us, and that is the urge to be competitive rather than collaborative. And that's a big thing. You know what I mean? Everybody can make money. But you know what? We can make a whole lot of money in business together.
100%.
And a lot of people don't look at that part of it. Listen, you come to me and you have an idea about doing something or looking at the way I'm doing things and have a proposition of how it could be done better. Absolutely. Let's talk.
Absolutely.
Why do you think that is? Why is that the position? Why do you think we come from that standpoint? I mean, I have an opinion, but I want to know what you brothers think.
It could be cultural. it could be, you know, a lot of mistrust, you know,
Yeah.
because it's a competitive space we're in, you know, and it is a competitive space all around. But you see where it's worked in other places with other groups, and we need to take that approach. You
Yep.
know,
I agree. And I think, Dwight, like particularly the point that you made around it's a highly competitive space, right? Like the barrier to entry to becoming an agent is relatively low, right? Rod, you talk about this all the time. Like all you got to do is go out and get a license and have some fire in your stomach, and you can go out like
you should be licensed.
like seriously.
Right.
Like
it's real though, like, you know.
But I think the problem is I think it's twofold. So one, historically, we've, you know, it's whether we like to admit it or not, we've always been kind of fed scraps. And, you know, I think that it's unfortunate that like the way that it's just kind of been built is that now you have people that have been programmed to think we have a confined amount of opportunity for people that look like us in this industry. So like when everyone's going out thinking like, oh yeah, they're only reserving $1 million for the black firms on all of the different contracts across New York City or DC or Philadelphia, wherever you want to be, right? Like that's going to just kind of create crabs in a barrel by design, unfortunately. So I think that it's things that unfortunately like we've been like handed as people because of the fact that we've been boxed out for so long. And now as those opportunities start to kind of open up, now I think that it's the time for people to start kind of thinking differently about it. But I think that like naturally there's going to be ego involved and there's going to be like a protectionist kind of mentality because you don't know how much there's going to be that can go around to feed all of the minority owned firms.
That's crazy, right? Because it's crazy that you say that because I'm just thinking about you mentioned the example where someone says, hey, you know, there's only $1 million in these contracts to go around. You know, that approach, you know, is really looking at the scarcity of the opportunity versus the massiveness of the opportunities for what about the other businesses out there that we're working with and we can help them to scale? So if this knowledge of infrastructure and development and acquisition, then those private industry businesses are going to grow as well, which creates more opportunity for everyone who is out there in the marketplace participating. Second, to what you were mentioning, Dwight, it's like, if there's an opportunity for us to collaborate, then everybody can play their part to benefit. You know, all of our individual businesses will benefit because none of us is even collectively probably big as some of these entities that are out here. So there's a lot of room for us to make our mark, and I think collaboration is definitely the key. You know, I love the just the acquisition kind of mindset and model, because the reality is we think that we have to be small businesses, and I say, hey, look, we don't have to be a small business. I don't desire to be a small business when it's all said and done. I want my business to be as big as possible. You know, that's how I'm gonna make it.
How many billionaires got started in the garage?
Thank you. And in the insurance industry.
Yeah.
Plenty.
And in the insurance industry.
Plenty.
So, you know, listen, you know, I see there's a question here from Will. How you doing, Will? Access to capital is traditionally presented a challenge to our people. What is your experience in finding, accessing loans, etc.? Anybody want to take that?
Well, we don't have any loans. We bootstrap everything. Me and my partner pay for everything out of pocket. We just be paying. Matter of fact, I just saw some deductions come out of our account today. So, John, I'm gonna turn that over to you.
Listen. I learned something when I was in banking is that everyone that really gets rich out here, you look at all of these people that are on Park Ave making all that money, they got rich on other people's money. That's the way to do it, right? And I know that we've typically been boxed out from access to opportunities there, but there's kind of like a threshold that I feel like you can kind of start out with to be able to get up to that level where now you are competitive to go out and get other people's money. Because I'll be very candid, like the fundraising process for me on the debt side was actually relatively straightforward. The hardest part of this whole acquisition part was finding the equity. So we had to find like a couple $100,000 in equity. Like I put in a substantial amount and then we had to go out and find more. But that was by design. It was a larger transaction. So like just the size of the business that I acquired was larger. But if you're looking at a smaller like acquisition just to get started, right? $100,000 or $200,000 in revenue, like it's going to come with strings attached. So for example, I'll be very candid with everyone. I signed a personal guarantee on a loan, on a $2+ million loan. I have a personal guarantee. If this business goes under, I declare personal bankruptcy. So there are risks, right? Like if you own a home and you take out an SBA loan and that business defaults, they're going to come for your house and they're going to come for everything that you earn. So I think it's like,
but in addition to that, you're not getting that SBA loan if you don't have collateral.
exactly. Well, I don't have collateral. Like I live in New York City. Like I don't own a thing. Like all that I own is like my body and my mind.
But the collateral is the business in this case.
The collateral is the business.
Collateral is the business. Yeah.
So the collateral is the business and any other personal assets that you have, right? So like it could be your 401k, it could be any assets that you have in the stock market, all that type of stuff. So now it's all right, what's my risk and reward, right? Which is it's entrepreneurship. So sometimes like that's kind of what you're signing up for, unfortunately, right? Like Rod, think about some times where like you were getting started out and you didn't know if those like deductions were going to be able to make it. Like I had a lot of mornings where I'm just like, damn, my cash flow is all out of whack because I had to go out and spend for this service, but I'm not getting paid until 30 days later. That's
hopefully.
I'm just glad I'm not going to my.
Hopefully, you're getting paid 30 days
into the business account. That's what it was initially.
Thank you. Like, but that's the risk that you take, and like, if you got to have the stomach for it, and if that's what you want to do, I highly encourage everyone to go that path. But you got to know what you're signing up for.
Man, that's a good
and you got to have a support system.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You got to have a support system.
Yo, having that stomach for it is the key, man. Like it's a wild card. I think with entrepreneurship, it's not even about, having the work ethic or willing to be able to put the time in or da-da-da-da-da. You really do have to have the temperament to withstand an extreme amount of pressure that you might find yourself under at any given time to keep moving forward. You know what I mean? And if you have that kind of fortitude, then you can win because it's a wild card. It certainly is a wild card.
That's all it is.
I will say though, I do think that there are a couple of things that we have to acknowledge, and networking is a big part of what we do, right? And it's vital for what we do because at the end of the day, one, if people don't know about your business, you're not going to be in business.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And two, if you have a community, you don't know where that next referral, that next client, that next opportunity is going to come from. But you stay true to your craft and, you're out there networking, chances are you will be at the forefront when somebody says, I know somebody that does that.
That's how it happens.
Correct.
That's how it happens, man. You just got to be around. I remember, man, one of my mentors in business told me early on, he said, in this business, he said, look, it's not the people who hit home runs out of the gate. It's the people that can outlast everybody else.
Yes. Yes, that's so true.
All you got to do is last. That's
a persistency game.
I'm a baseball fan. And, I remember I saw a stat once about Hank Aaron's.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they said Hank Aaron's never hit 50 home runs in a season.
Mm.
But he is a home run king. Most career home runs before Bonds.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Consistency over a long period of time. That got it done.
That's a fact. That's an absolute fact. I think, that's definitely top of mind. And I think also just I think Dwight, you've done a really good job of being focused on talent development, going out and being thoughtful about bringing more people that look like us into the industry too. But, I think things like continuing education, I hope I don't ruffle any feathers here, but I think a big part, I think people kind of lose sight sometimes of what, particularly maybe on the agency side, I don't think that this might necessarily apply as much on the claims or even the underwriting side, but I think it still applies. We work in a sales-based industry, and I think it's valuable to have designations and understand the technical stuff. But at the end of the day, the three people on this phone run sales and marketing organizations. So I feel there needs to be more kind of discussions about where do I learn how to cold call and prospect? Because like I know typically like it's like the standard like old fashioned way of going about doing things is like I go sign up to like join the Chamber of Commerce, or I do this or that, like just within different networking groups. Like, but we work in an industry where you can underwrite and do brokerage across all 50 states. So like all it is, you're just a phone call away from a $25,000 account. And I feel like that's something that like, I would like to be able to give back to folks, just like in terms of like helping them get like trained up to be able to like do a lot more work like that. But I think it's going to be really important, especially like as we look to grow, learning and just being focused on growth and expansion, whether it's organic or inorganic. Every single second of the day needs to be focused on growing. You grow or you die. It's that simple.
That's a fact. That is a fact. Absolutely.
I just saw Will shout out, the Sisters of Alpha Kappa Alpha and their initiative with their credit union, which I think is amazing. Now you get me talking about, black banks, then where I'm going to go is, hey, when black banks were at their strongest is when they were supported by insurance companies. How come these new black banks don't have insurance companies attached to them? I don't know, but it needs to be the case. But, definitely congrats either way. But more to come on that. And in these next projects that are coming up, because we need to reconnect that bridge between.
I agree.
Insurance.
Absolutely. So I think we're getting we're almost at time. So I guess any final thoughts before we wrap up, guys?
Licensing, gotta get them. And Rod mentioned that you should get licensed, and it's important. You talked about it also, Jelani. Licensing is key. Collaboration is key. Work with others. Get out there. Put yourself out there. Network. Also, know your craft, man. Know your craft. You need to know. You need to be the one they call when they have a question about this. Period.
I'll add to that. Like, make sure that you're short up on your technical knowledge, but those soft skills are important. Like just being able to communicate, being able to establish relationships, being able to network and talk to people and build and kind of see things from different perspectives. Like, especially for like the rising talent, that's coming out. Definitely soft skill cultivation, personal development. Can't go wrong. Absolutely.
And I guess just to kind of like bring it all together, I think collaboration and aggregation, that is the name of the game. I think that's the only way that we will be able to like really be able to truly make change in this industry, is if we have collaboration and aggregation. You look at the top 3 brokerages in the country, they all were brought up by aggregation and collaboration. It's that simple.
Hey, Jelani, isn't Jollof Pie the aggregation for collaboration?
And that's exactly why you guys are going to see it on the way out. You see, you already know where I'm going with it. So obviously everyone here needs to check that out. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with everything that Ngazi is doing on the Black Friday side. So make sure that you guys go out and support, because again, that's the only way that we're going to really be able to make any of this stuff happen. And I think just to kind of put the bow on the entrepreneurial stuff, like I think everyone on this call will tell you that there is no one clear path to being an insurance entrepreneur, and there is no one clear path once you get into the space on what that's going to look like for the rest of your journey. So think outside of the box, like go to where the water is warm, as we all agree. Like there's a lot of opportunity in the space, so continue to chase it.
Right.
Love it.
Excellent.
Appreciate
all right,
you.
gents. Well, listen, it's been excellent reconnecting with everyone.
Part 2.
Absolutely.
Part 2. This was awesome. So
Yeah.
we got plenty more. I don't know. I don't want to put anything out there, but I feel like we still got a lot to discuss.
We
So
do.
Yes, sir.
we might need to have like a soft discussion about part 3, but we'll let Ngazi make that decision.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, everyone. Enjoy the day and we'll catch up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Later.